Chosen one, listen closely. What if the thing you've been praying for finally shows up? What if the door opens, the promotion lands, the account fills? What if the breakthrough finally breaks through? Now picture this, a single hand opens. In the center of that palm, one coin. A light from above catches it, not because it's shiny, but because it's sacred. See, when God blesses you, especially with money, with influence, with success, it's not just a reward, it's a test of memory, a test of humility, a test of whether you remember the valley that shaped you, or if you'll let the mountain change you. Everyone prays for elevation, but few prepare for it, because when you rise, people watch. Some will celebrate you, some will envy you, and some are just waiting to see you fall. That's why this message is reaching you now. Because the blessing you've asked for might be closer than you think. And when it comes, heaven wants to know, will you still recognize yourself once you have it? Chosen ones don't rise like the world rises. They don't flaunt. They don't forget. They grow in favor. But stay small in spirit. This isn't about money. It's about mission. It's about staying rooted when everything in life is pulling you upward. So if you're still listening, it means something big is coming, and what you do next will matter more than you think. Not everyone who shines was sent by heaven, and not everyone who suffers was forgotten. Look at Joseph, betrayed by his brothers, sold, imprisoned, forgotten. But in time, he rose not quickly, but faithfully. When he stood before those who hurt him, he didn't seek revenge. He forgave. He wept. That's what the chosen do. They don't rise fast. They rise right. The world chases attention. The chosen chase obedience. They understand slow growth is sacred. Hidden seasons are holy. Character spotlight. Deuteronomy 8:18 says, "Remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the ability to produce wealth, not hustle, not luck, God." True blessing isn't proof of your genius. It's evidence of His grace, and grace must be stewarded. Because when blessing comes before depth, it crushes. The gift becomes a god. The prize becomes the downfall. There's a story a man wins $10 million. Overnight, his life changes. Mansions, parties, applause. But 4 years later broke, alone, forgotten. Why? Because he had the prize, but not the wisdom to carry the promise. Wealth without depth ruins people. A platform without purpose destroys them. If your heart isn't ready, the very thing you prayed for can break you. That's why the chosen walk differently. They don't flaunt every win. They don't need applause to validate their purpose. They walk slowly, not from weakness, but from awareness. Because they carry something heavy. They know success isn't just for them. It's for the people they'll serve. For the generation coming next. For the name of the one who brought them through. So they stay grounded. They stay grateful. They rise quietly. Because fame fades. Crowds change. But legacy lives on. Here's the law. When you become rich in influence, wisdom, or favor, act like you're still poor, not from shame, but from reverence. Don't forget the pit. Don't erase the prison, because the moment you think you built it all is the moment you start falling. You don't carry a prize. You carry a promise, and that is heavier. Wealth reveals you. It doesn't define you. Money itself isn't evil. Scripture doesn't say that. It says the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. Big difference. Wealth can be a blessing, a tool, a test, a platform for good. But if you weren't rooted before it, money will shake you. If you weren't grounded, it will expose you. Because money doesn't create character, it reveals it. Look at David. From forgotten shepherd boy to powerful king. He had wealth, influence, and victory. But in 2 Samuel 7:18, he says, "Who am I, sovereign Lord? And what is my family, that you have brought me this far?" That's humility. That's perspective. That's what heaven honors. Proverbs 22:4 says, "Humility is the fear of the Lord. Its wages are riches and honor and life." In other words, wealth gained from reverence lasts. Wealth built on ego crumbles. Think of two people. One, a CEO who still drives his old truck, lives in the same house, packs his lunch. He's not trying to prove anything, he's just being himself. Success didn't change him. It gave him more to steward. The other young, newly promoted, first big paycheck, buys a flashy car, posts everything online, chases applause. At first, people clap. But over time, they see through it. Because the louder you get about your wealth, the more people wonder what you're trying to prove. Real respect is earned through consistency, not flash. Legacy is built in humility, not hype. So how do the chosen handle success? They stay low, even when lifted high. They stay thankful, even in abundance. They remember the lean years, the borrowed gas money, the thrift store clothes, the quiet prayers in dark seasons. And they let those memories keep them human. It's not about pretending to be poor. It's about staying connected to reality. Because wealth can disappear, titles fade, economies crash. But your character, that's what endures. So yes, be blessed. Receive everything God gives. But don't let it make you forget where you came from or who you are without it. Live richly, but carry yourself simply. Speak gently, give generously, and stay small in your own eyes. Because the higher God takes you, the deeper He expects your humility to grow. The loudest one in the room often has the least to say. There's power in silence, in moving without announcing, in doing the work while the world is sleeping. Picture this. It's late. The house is dark. Everyone's asleep except one person. A laptop screen glows softly. Fingers move across the keyboard. No noise. No audience. Just quiet focus. That's how most true breakthroughs begin, not in front of a crowd, but behind closed doors. Matthew 6:1-4 says, "Be careful not to practice your righteousness in front of others to be seen by them. When you give, do it in secret. Then your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you." In other words, you don't need a spotlight for your obedience to matter. God sees the quiet faith, the small yes, the acts of love no one else applauds. Even Jesus, with all his power, would often retreat. away from crowds, away from noise, into the wilderness, into the quiet. That's where he prayed. That's where he aligned with the Father. He never used his power to draw attention to himself. He didn't need to. He wasn't here to impress. He was here to serve. And those who follow him, they live the same way. Like a single mom who just got promoted at work. No celebration post, no ego, just more capacity to give every month. She quietly pays part of another kid's school tuition. That child's family never finds out who helped them. She doesn't want them to. Because it's not about being seen, it's about being faithful. And that's what people forget. Quiet doesn't mean passive. Low profile doesn't mean weak. In fact, most of the strongest people you'll ever meet live in quiet strength. They don't brag. They don't seek applause. They don't need the room to know who they are. Because they're rooted. They know who they are in God. And that's more than enough. You see, noise fades, but fruit lasts. Likes come and go. But legacy stays. And when the storm comes, because it always does, it's not the flashy life that survives. It's the rooted one. So don't be afraid to move in silence, to give without your name on it, to help without needing credit, to pray where no one sees, to build without posting every step. That's the hidden strength of the chosen. They know the strongest roots are the ones you never see. The test of success is often more dangerous than the trial of failure. Most people struggle the waiting, the lack, the silence. But in God's eyes, success might be the greater test. Because success doesn't just bless, it exposes. It reveals what pressure can't reach: your pride, your motives, your foundation. Look at Solomon, the wisest man, blessed beyond measure. He built the temple, wrote Proverbs, led a nation. But in the end, he drifted. Why? Because even wisdom can be drowned out by comfort. Even the strong lose direction when surrounded by praise. Solomon wrote in Ecclesiastes 1:2, meaningless. Meaningless. Everything is meaningless. That's not how he started, but that's where success took him to emptiness. See? Failure brings you to your knees, but success tempts you to stand taller than you should. To think you earned what God gave. To believe the applause means approval. Let me tell you a story. A man famous, admired, once lived with purpose. Then came the fans, the money, the pressure to please, and slowly, the applause became his compass. He lost himself not in failure, but in success. Because money doesn't change you. It reveals what's been hiding. Pride, insecurity, ego. And if you don't face those early, success will feed them until they consume you. That's why the wise approach success carefully. They don't let the stage replace the altar. They don't confuse fame with faith. They know that success can be spiritual and dangerous. If you're praying for elevation, pray harder for humility. If you're asking for more, ask for wisdom to carry it. And if you're rising, make sure your roots go deeper than your platform. Because what good is building an empire if your soul collapses underneath it? Stay anchored. Stay grateful. And remember, the real test of success isn't getting there. It's staying faithful once you do. Before the elevation comes, the isolation. That's how God works. Before He raises someone up, He sets them apart. It's not punishment, it's preparation. There are signs, subtle, quiet, but real, that you're being prepared for something greater. First, people start misunderstanding you. Conversations feel off. Even those closest to you can't seem to read your heart anymore. You feel the distance, even in familiar rooms. Second, old relationships start to fade. Not in anger, just silence. The phone doesn't ring like it used to. The people you used to lean on aren't showing up, and deep down, you know God is making space. Third, your spirit sharpens. Things that never bothered you suddenly feel heavy. You notice compromise more clearly in yourself and in others. Your appetite changes. You're not drawn to the same distractions. You crave peace over noise, stillness over attention, depth over surface. That's not random. That's refinement. Look at Moses. Before he led a nation, he lived in the desert for 40 years, alone, hidden, misunderstood. But it was in that quiet place where he learned to listen not to the crowd, but to God. The wilderness wasn't a delay. It was design. So if you feel alone right now, if you're in a season where nothing makes sense, where you're being stripped of what used to comfort you, don't panic. Don't assume something's wrong. You might be in the middle of heaven's preparation. Because before God uses someone publicly, He shapes them privately. Before He puts you in front of others, He makes sure you're rooted in Him. So if you're walking through isolation, it may be because elevation is next. The moment you forget your wilderness, you risk disqualifying your promise. It happened to Israel. God brought them out of slavery through miracles, the Red Sea, manna, protection. But in the wilderness, they forgot who carried them, forgot what He'd done, and instead of entering the promised land, they wandered. Not because God changed His mind, but because they lost theirs. Deuteronomy 8:2 says, "Remember how the Lord your God led you all the way in the wilderness, to humble and test you, to know what was in your heart." God doesn't just test through hardship. He tests through memory. Will you still remember the prayers in the dark, the empty account, the nights you almost gave up but didn't, because success is not the time to forget. It's the time to remember. There's a CEO I know highly respected now, but years ago, he ate dollar sandwiches in his car, praying, "God, help me keep going." Today, different car, same prayer, same posture. That's how you carry success with memory. Memory grounds you, keeps you human, keeps you dependent on God. The enemy of gratitude is forgetfulness, and forgetfulness breeds pride. So when you step into the blessing, don't forget the hunger that built you, the seasons only God saw, the silence that shaped your faith. Success doesn't erase your story, it completes it. But only if you carry the wilderness with you. Let every open door remind you of the shut ones. Let every comfort remind you of God's provision when you had nothing. Let every win point back to the one who made it possible, because the ones who remember are the ones God can trust to carry more. If you're not wise, what you build in 10 years can fall in 10 minutes. Wealth isn't wrong. Success isn't evil. But without purpose, they become dangerous. They feed pride, cloud judgment, and quietly pull your heart from God until you don't even realize how far you've drifted. That's why Jesus said, "Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." Matthew 6:21. Treasure isn't just what you own, it's what you value. And what you value shapes everything. This is your reminder: everything God gives your platform, your paycheck, your influence was never meant to glorify you. It was meant to point back to Him. So don't let success choke out humility. Don't let comfort replace dependence. And don't let applause drown out God's voice. You weren't called to flaunt the blessing, you were trusted to carry it. So act poor, stay grounded, lead quietly. Let heaven be your reward, not the spotlight. Heaven isn't just watching how high you climb, but how deep you stay rooted. Picture a tall tree in an open field. Its strength doesn't come from the branches above, but the roots below, deep, quiet, unshaken, overscoured. That's what God is building in you. Not just growth, but depth. Not just moments of greatness, but a life anchored in faith. You weren't blessed to impress, you were blessed to serve. Every gift you carry points back to the giver. Every open door is a call to shine light in dark places. So don't build high and forget to dig deep. Let your roots grow in love, in humility, in obedience. Because when the winds come, they will remain the rooted ones. Take a breath. Step forward with quiet strength. Walk like someone set apart. You are chosen. Now you know what to do.